Had a tremendous impact on my career by exposing me to so many amazingly talented designers. It's giving me a ton of role models. It's funny enough, and I feel lucky enough to say that they're my peers now and even some of my really good friends.
Dribble's impact on my career has been phenomenal. Started dribbling in 2011 or so, got invited by my art director Mark Boltz from Fitbit. At that point we all started sharing our work on Dribble. It was great because we actually got a lot of feedback because at Fitbit we didn't have a lot of inspiration back then. Not a lot of people were doing step tracking and fitness dashboards, so I got a lot of feedback from people I didn't even know. From that moment it was just uphill with the exposure that I've gotten from Dribble, from other players, from companies. It was fantastic.
Dribble has really impacted my career in a big way, especially when I was trying to break into the tech industry. I moved to the Bay from Virginia, where we had just discovered responsive design years behind everybody else. So I moved out here and did some deep Dribble lurking. I would even read hashtags on shots just to kind of understand what people were calling their work and how they were thinking about it. And it really removed like an access barrier for me, so I was able to go into interviews and feel really competent and be speaking the same language as my interviewers.
Dribble has had an impact in my career in the way that it actually allowed me to have my first job out of college. This company, in 24 hours, they reached out to me. They asked me what I did and if I was interested in coming in to interview. And so, again, in 24 hours, I was able to get a job because of Dribble.
In order to do the type of design work that I wanted to do, I had to go out on my own. So for the first time in my life, I had to freelance. And around that same time, Dribble had just started. And there were two benefits to that. One, it definitely increased the exposure of my work. But two, it gave me the ability to collaborate with people that I respected and designers that I really admired in real time. People were sharing sketches and would share multiple rounds of iterations on a design and get feedback in the comments from people, from their peers. And that was very, very helpful because it felt like I was working on an extended team of designers and really good designers.
In 2011, I decided that I wanted to explore design and art. The tech scene was really young. There wasn't a huge community out there that I felt like I could really easily join. So I looked to Dribble basically to meet friends and talk to people and also just look at other people's work for inspiration. So it was really like a digital lifeline to design.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Madeline from Dribble here. How's everyone doing? Hi, great to see so many people in the chat. Hello, Stephanie. Hi, Hazel. I'd love to know where everyone's joining in from. I see a few people from Bangladesh. Hi, guys. And what time is it there? I love that some people are joining at like 2 a.m. That's commitment. You guys deserve a medal. Hi from Italy, 3 p.m., 2 a.m. Oh my goodness. Well, you guys are in for an amazing treat. I'm glad that you guys have stayed up all night for this. Hi, Dominique. Hi. Amazing. It's so great to see so many of you people here. So great to see all the involvement in the chat. Amazing. So let's get started. Welcome, everybody. We're glad to have you here today for our Dribble workshop. We couldn't have invited a better friend and career inspiration than business boss Sophia Chang. You guys are in for an awesome afternoon of career advice and guidance. And I hope that you're all so excited to get super focused on what your next career move is going to look like. If this is your first time attending a Dribble event, then hello. Dribble is a platform and community that helps designers and creatives share their work. Whether it's helping you get hired or just get inspiration, we're here for the design community, and we also help you learn your craft, a lot like we're doing today. So if you're not yet on Dribble, send us your email address in the chat and we'll send you an invite to Dribble. We'd love to invite you to our community. So yeah, put your email addresses in the chat if you want to join Dribble. We run these live interactive workshops every 2 weeks. They're run by industry leaders and they're on a whole range of different topics. So head to dribble.com/learn to look at all the lineup that we got and all the topics and workshops that we're holding. Sophia's holding another workshop next week on Thursday at the same time, analytics and authenticity on Instagram, crafting your digital presence. As you guys have all shown up to this workshop, we're going to give you a 50% discount to Sophia's next workshop. So tickets are only going to be $50. So head to dribble.com/learn and get your ticket to Sophia's workshop next week. She's going to be going over so many valuable tips and tricks, all about how to use data and analytics to grow your engagement, how to build your digital presence, using hashtag strategy, using SEO to create your content on Instagram. And we're going to be diving deeper into some of the topics that we cover today. So I really encourage you to head to dribble.com/learn and get your 50% ticket using the code Sophia50. So hope to see you all next week. Okay, so we are going to be kicking off momentarily with Sophia Chang's workshop, 5 Steps to Your Next Career Move. We've got a bit of housekeeping to do first. So use the chat to get to know each other, introduce yourselves, network, share your Dribble handles, share your Instagram handles. We love to see this engagement in the chat. If you have any questions, put them in the question and answer panel of the chat, and you could upvote other people's questions. So upvote, and the more votes a question has, the more likely it will get answered by Sophia. At the end of this session, there might be an opportunity for you guys to come up on stage and ask Sophia questions face to face. If you want to come up on stage, raise your hand in the question and answer panel, and then we'll pull you into the green room and put you on stage. Do that when Sophia calls you to. If you run into any tech trouble or any issues at all, then flag us, you could DM us, and you could also use the help section. We're here throughout the whole event, so just DM us and let us know your thoughts and any issues that you're having. And also share this on social media. Tag us at Dribble. We're going to be resharing everything on our social media. Tweet, comment, Instagram, and use the hashtag Dribble Workshop. I've got my friend here with me today, Renee.
Hey everybody, I'm Renee and I'm on Team Dribble. Come say hi in the chat. I'll be here if you need anything.
Thank you, Renee. And a special thanks to our event platform partners, Welcome, who we're holding this virtual event through. Okay, that's enough of me. Let's get started with Sophia's workshop. So hailing from Queens, New York, with a BFA from Parsons School of Design, Sophia has championed a name for herself in the art, design, and streetwear community worldwide. Regularly working with A-list brands, She's got a client list that includes Nike, Refinery 29, Adidas, Apple, Foot Locker, HBO, the NBA, and many, many more. She excels in all mediums like apparel, websites, graphic design, illustration, curation, and has grown her personal brand to worldwide recognition. So she's a phenomenal artist and graphic designer, but we're so happy to have her here with us today as a mentor and a teacher for all of you guys. So let's take it away. Sophia, welcome.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in from all around the world. All right, so I think I have the floor fully now. I'm really excited to get started. So lovely to meet you all. I'm sure we'll have a chance to be able to chat through shortly after we're done, but thanks for tuning in today. My name's Sophia Chang. I'm an illustrator and designer. I've worked in this space for about 10 years. Let me quickly walk us through the agenda that we have in store for the next few hours. And feel free to take bathroom breaks and water breaks as needed. But for the next few, oh yeah, I was supposed to share my screen. All right, no worries. So I'm going to quickly introduce myself to just give, I guess, this course a little bit more context. I'm sure all of you guys have had a chance to look at the description on the Dribbble website, but would love to let you hear from myself a little bit about my journey on, my background, how I got into the profession of illustration and been able to kind of build the career that I have today. So that once you kind of understand my background, we'll also dive into the whole point of this course, which is 5 steps to your next career move. We'll chat a bit. It'll be a little lecture-y, a lot of me talking, but there'll be some fun action items for you to work on. I'm sure that you guys have received the resources file. Hopefully you have. If not, I mean, maybe the Dribbble team can jot in like a quick link for everyone to quickly access, but they are specially prepared resource files for this class today that you guys can take with you for forever. But we'll work on a couple exercises together that I'll coach everyone through. We'll take a quick Q&A break and then take a quick breather where I can drink some water and stuff as well. And then we'll dive into the second portion of this class, which is creating clarity from the chaos. So it's really taking a lot of the conceptual stuff we're talking about in the 5 steps to your next career move and talking about how we can take the concept and all this fun stuff in theory and actually turn it into actionable items for everyone here. And so let's dive right in. First, let's talk about why we're doing this, why you guys are staying awake, why we're even here, why you signed up, why I'm doing this myself. A big part of why I started this course is I grew up in Queens, New York, which is a small little bubble town. And, a lot of times I'm asked to share my story on how I became the illustrator and professional person that I am today. I think a lot of times, especially with the digital age on social media, on a lot of digital platforms, we see the success of other people. We see the success that we ourselves want to achieve and experience. But a lot of times it's hard to figure out from where you're at today in this very moment to get to where you actually want to be. We have a sense of it, but what are the necessary steps that we need to take in between? There's so many resources that we can look online, but it's hard to kind of find for yourself, and it can be very difficult to take those first few steps. You don't know if you're doing it right, and there's just all these questions out there. So the point of this course really is to help create clarity for everyone to feel confident with themselves, for you to really assess your strengths and how you can develop a full functioning career for yourself and get work and be happy and love the work that you're doing. A big part of this course is also designed for people who might be a newly grad, anyone who's also in this shift in their own career as well, where they're pursuing the passion project, just the projects that you love and how to get that ball rolling as far as getting clients, sharing your work, and so forth. So obviously some super, super key topics that everyone wants to learn about. So you are in the right room. So let's get started. And I kind of already talked about that. So today we will accurately, let me share my screen again because I keep forgetting. Today we will accurately, are you guys, oh, Dribbble team, okay, great. We'll accurately talk about how we can value your time, assess your strengths. We'll also create a positive brand awareness for your business, and talk about how you can actually harness the power of online communities, which obviously, if you're here on Dribbble, you're already in the right place and you're off to a really good start. So the actual takeaway that you have is creating a viable career plan involving mapping and navigating your ideal path and understanding the resources at your disposal. So a lot of times you might be navigating through life and not actually realizing there's a lot of things around you that you can take advantage of that can totally help you propel your career. So I'll start with introducing myself like I promised. I'm originally from Queens, New York. For anyone who's familiar with New York City, here's a little drawing. I don't know if you guys can see my cursor. I'm on the part where it says Queens. Some of my early influences grew up in the 90s. So music, hip hop, being in New York City, the graffiti, the art, sneaker culture were really, really a big part of just my own personal interests being in high school and junior high. Here are some pictures of me when I was that age. I grew up in Queens, which is a huge melting pot. Everyone is there, like the entire color spectrum. So, you know, we would be in elementary school and my parents are Taiwanese. So I'd be bringing, you know, Asian food, like Chinese food, and then someone else will be having Indian food and someone else will be having like Peruvian food. So it was this beautiful melting pot of different cultures where everyone got to learn a little bit about each other's cultures and food. So I was very blessed to be able to attend Parsons School of Design, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, from 2006 to 2010 for undergrad, and I majored in illustration. Before I got into that school, I was actually really surprised I got into that school, actually. I was always drawing growing up. So this little sticker on the bottom right, that's actually where my Instagram handle comes from. So my initials are SC for Sophia Chang. And so when everyone in New York would create these little graffiti stickers to put around, you know, light posts in the city and whatnot, everyone had a little nickname. So my nickname was SC. But I always had a love for drawing, always had this notebook, sketchbook my entire life. My dream was to be a fashion designer. I actually got rejected from FIT. And I somehow magically got accepted to Parsons and always had this love for drawing. And it wasn't until undergrad where I actually learned that, wait, I can turn this hobby and love for drawing into an actual career. And so I really just wanted to make the most out of my 4 years in undergrad. I worked part-time at sneaker stores in downtown Manhattan. I took full classes and I audited classes, meaning I would email professors and be like, hi, my name is Sophia. I'm an illustrator. I'd love to be able to be a part of your class if possible and just be a ghost student, which I'm pretty sure is illegal, but I did it anyways. And I also did a ton of internships, which I'll kind of comb through later today during our workshop to talk about how I got involved in these internships, what I got from them, and really what you guys should be looking for if that's something you're considering. But just to share a little bit about my work early days, these were some projects that I was involved with as a student. So I worked with a fine artist named Ryan McGinnis, being a studio assistant and really just cleaning silk screens. So literally with a power gun and water splashing all over my face and clothes. Sounds more magical than it actually is. I also interned at a magazine called Complex, which is also well known as a media platform called Complex Media. And so I helped them out as an illustrator and learning about publishing, like back when, you know, magazines were around, and learn about how publishing worked, advertising, and it was just an amazing experience to be, as a fan of street culture and the content that Complex put out. It was really, really inspiring to be able to, you know, actually work on the magazines. I also interned with a designer who did a lot of work for a prominent streetwear brand in street culture called Undefeated. So I had a chance to not only be a fan of this kind of street culture fashion scene, but also learn behind the scenes, how does a creative, an artist, come up with concepts and actually prepare artwork for production. So the biggest question is, how did you go from student to freelancer? Well, obviously in New York City, it's very hard to make a living just drawing. So, and staying alive, paying rent, and buying very expensive food in downtown Manhattan. But honestly, my story is not any different from anyone else's. I just tried. I just put myself out there. And during my 4 years in undergrad, I would attend different art shows or meet people, and I would always be asked, do you have a business card? Do you have a website? I was maybe a sophomore in undergrad, and I realized, okay, I need to have a great website, and I need to have a business card, and I just need to have myself together. I need to present myself more professionally. So we'll talk about those things as well in this course, which is presentation and professionalism, as well as ways that you can kind of network and make connections in your community. But more than anything, I made an effort to put myself out there. What I mean by that is, shortly after I graduated, I was chasing the same artistic illustrator opportunity and check as anyone who graduated with me, before me, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. So I had to ask myself, what am I going to do to set myself apart from competitors? So I would make an effort to research, Google people's email addresses from companies I wanted to work with, go to the bookstore and look at magazines and look for people's names and emails and try to find their emails or find their Facebooks and send them Facebook messages. That's actually how I got my internship at Complex, by the way. I emailed some accounting person's Facebook and shared my work. And I would even go on Craigslist, for anyone who's familiar with Craigslist, and send 100 emails a day and hope that someone would get back to me and know that I'm an illustrator and artist that's just here looking for work. So that's really the bulk of what I did. But once the work started to roll in through these very strategic, intentional practices, this is kind of how my work looks like today. I've had a chance, thanks to Madeline's awesome introduction, I've had a chance to be able to work with some really awesome brands and companies over the course of the, I guess, 10 to 15 years of my career. So that's my story. And in short, I'm an illustrator and designer. Here's my own little description of myself. I've designed apparel, magazines, do branding. I also design apparel. Oh yeah, I already just said that. Prints, and I also do websites. So a little bit of everything. And one thing I also wanted to point out is that when I was in school and earlier in my career, a lot of people told me, Sophia, why are you doing so much? Why don't you just pick one thing and just be really good at it instead of trying to do this and that and that? But my innate, voice in my head is, this is just who I am. I just love all of these things. I love trying these different types of skills. And I will talk about this later on as well, the importance of just gaining new skills. It's a classic phrase of teach a man how to fish and he'll live for the rest of his life. So I want to learn as much as I can. I still do every day in different aspects of my life. The more I learn, the more I can build, and I can build whatever I want with my creative ideas. So in short, today's all about investing in you. It's about how to continue to build on your skills so that you can build whatever you want. Speaking about building whatever you want, I wanted to share a little bit about some of my most recent projects. I started a creative agency with a business partner. It's called We Ascend. We actually switch the website, so the branding might not be there when you look it up online, but we called the business We Ascend because we wanted to ascend with our community. We wanted to rise up with our community of awesome creators and work with big brands. We did that for quite a few years. We also had a health and wellness platform that we had built that is a full functioning magazine for 8 years. And so we put out 9 different issues where she and I worked on the art direction. We worked with illustrators in our community, stylists, photographers. I did all the magazine design. So it's really learning all the skills from interning and applying it to my community that I care for and creating something that I care about, and that you actually don't know what your full potential is until a lot of times when you can actually gain the skills to be able to bring it to life. This is also another example of how we try to change the way we talk about health and wellness and some of the visuals that we produce together. I also started a sneaker marketplace because I collect sneakers. I don't know if you guys can tell, maybe here. There's a whole sneaker wall here behind me. But actually, I'll just show you for fun because why not? Here you go. Oh yeah, so there's a lot of sneakers here. But I'm a big sneaker collector, obviously growing up in New York, but a big issue in the sneaker community is definitely being able to find sneakers in your size, especially for women. It's very, very difficult for us to shop. And so I wanted to create a one-stop shop destination that allows women to shop on, and men, for anyone to shop for all around the world and be able to shop multiple retailers from all around the world. So feel free to check that out. And we definitely market it to women because it's the biggest need in the space, but anyone who wants to buy can totally buy. And we're pulling men's, women's, and children's sneakers as well, because if you have feet, it probably will fit and it'll look good on you. So that's pretty much my quick intro. So really the rest of the time that we're spending here for at least the first portion is I want to talk through what and how I've learned. So what I've learned and how I've learned it. We'll go through kind of organization, striking that work-life balance and structuring it for efficiency, because everyone only has 24 hours in a day and it's really exhausting, especially now more than ever during COVID and, you know, everyone's stuck at home. But also talking through scheduling, you know, like for me, early college life, because I was interning in undergrad, also working part-time, it definitely taught me how to handle deadlines and also like multiple timelines and deadlines and working with different people and different teams, which made the transition into freelance a little bit smoother for me. And also like how I integrate different types of apps. I'll definitely share with you guys apps that I use and a couple articles for sure that you guys should check out. And, you know, living in New York, it's all about thinking and working 10 steps ahead. For those of you guys that are tuning in from major metropolitan cities, I'm sure you can relate, which is this concept of, you know, if I'm walking through the New York City subway and I'm going down to, you know, catch the subway, I'm not going to walk down the stairs and then get to the turnstile and be like, oh, I should get my Metro card. Let me get my card out, swipe through, and then get on the train. Most of the time, as you're walking down the stairs, you're already grabbing it already. So how do we kind of train our brain to kind of be able to, I guess, multitask, but anticipate the steps ahead in order for us to move through things a little bit more seamlessly? I'll also talk about how I kind of like map my thoughts, map the strategy of how to gain new clients, how to meet people, how to get your work out there, and also how I break down and manage the projects that are in my timeline. So, and I also operate 3 businesses. So basically how I keep sane and stay organized. So I'm going to take a quick sip of water. And we'll dive into it. Okay. So now's the time. Now is the time for you guys to start investing in yourselves. So after my long-winded intro, we're diving right into it. Now is the time, meaning if you have the availability to tune into a workshop like this, if you have time, time is basically your currency. It is the most amazing, valuable thing that you can have. Meaning, take some, you know, online classes. This is the best time for you to do. I kind of made this term, it's called skill hoarding. Learn as many skills as you can. So for example, when I was in undergrad, I took extra classes in coding and motion graphics, and I learned some of it, but I realized I didn't like it. But I also tried, you know, typography, I tried packaging design, I tried all these other classes and realized, oh, I kind of like this, I kind of don't like this. And obviously the internet is your friend. So there's so much free information out there. I know it might sound really overwhelming and we all have the best intention to want to learn more and improve ourselves. I'll definitely talk about some apps that I use to help keep myself accountable on getting things done, whether it's spending 1 hour a month just reading articles about productivity or 1 hour a month reading up on marketing. The time is available. It's just all about how you organize it and make time for it, pun intended. So one thing to really acknowledge is definitely milking your opportunities. There are a lot of great opportunities out there, and we just have to be mindful and really train ourselves to kind of recognize it. So I've got 2 stories for you. I'm going to close the window because it's really hot here. And I was letting the AC out. Hold on. Okay, milking your opportunities. So story number 1, you guys remember seeing that picture of, maybe you saw that picture of Anthony Bourdain that I might have shared before, but for those of you who don't know him, he's a very prominent chef and someone in the food industry. and who is no longer with us, unfortunately. But when I first graduated college, I had a friend who was just like a random rapper who happened to know someone who worked at a production company that worked on the show. And this was maybe 2011. And the company that owned the show was called Travel Channel, and Travel Channel needed someone to like draw a poster for the next episode. I think he was going to Boston, and they wanted to post it on their Facebook. And I wasn't going to get paid. I was just an illustrator out of college. I just happened to be given this opportunity. I thought it was really cool. I obviously wish I got paid for it, but I was just like, oh, I mean, I guess I'll do it. I also wasn't a huge, like, I don't follow his work very closely. I just knew he was famous. So I was just like, oh yeah, you know, why not? So I did this job, and they posted it on Facebook. And it ended up getting a lot of engagement and interest. And mind you, this is like 10 years ago, actually 10 years ago. And I put it out there and I was like, yeah, whatever, you know, I did it. I can add it to my portfolio. And what ended up happening was the actual channel, Travel Channel, reached out to me directly, and they said, hi, we loved your work. We'd love to see if we can sign you on to do an entire poster series for us for the entire show of No Reservations. Like, would you want to do it? And I was like, sure, absolutely. That would be great. And that was my first big break. And I think the point of that story is really, sometimes these opportunities come, and sometimes your ego gets in the way a little bit, where you're like, you know, I've worked really hard for these opportunities and for the skills that I have, and I think I should be compensated for certain projects and stuff like that. I mean, that happens to me all the time still, but you know, that story I shared 10 years ago, I just had something happen to me this week that was literally the same exact story, which was I had a friend that was a DJ that was doing a fundraiser, and they needed a flyer, a DJ flyer. And, you know, I'm pretty busy these days, and they wanted me to do this flyer for a charity cause. And so I put it together. It was sponsored by Life Water, which is a company that Coca-Cola owns. And so I did this flyer. I didn't get paid for it. And well, they were going to offer me some money, and I was like, just donate it to the charity. And it just lived. And about 3-4 weeks later, I got a call from the actual brand that sponsored it. And they were like, hi, we want to pitch you for like a whole thing. We loved your work. Would you want to do more with us? And it became this entire like huge project with an awesome check, which really made everything much more worthwhile, and just continues to kind of remind me in my journey that, hey, you know, sometimes free work can go somewhere. So milking your opportunities. Can we share the screen again, just so I don't have to click through? So the next one is I have to click it, okay. Okay, so the next thing I would say is, obviously I touched on it really briefly, which is the concept of ego. Like, I'm sure many of you are very talented creators who may have been the best in your class or whatnot. But at the end of the day, you're still a business, and clients want to work with people they enjoy working with, not just people who are talented. The easier you can make yourself to work with in terms of professionalism, the easier it is for the clients to want to come back and work with you. So just something that my old boss, when I was a web designer, said to me before, which is just like, everyone, just remember to leave your egos at the door. So I'm going to talk through internships a little bit. Some people love internships. Some people are like, and you might be a full functioning like web designer, UX designer, and you're already freelancing and everything's all good. But I do want to talk on the value of internships, because it is really the basis of what's been able to make me the illustrator and artist that I am today. Obviously, I shared a couple of the internships that I had done, but you know, people have the stigma of free help. Of course, your time is valuable. Your skills are valuable. They should not just be given away for free. So I really got to kind of weigh your options here as far as like what you think would be great. So if you're, let's say, a UX designer, it might be helpful to do an internship and just to kind of offer your free services to be able to shadow another UX designer. Maybe it's just cleaning their office or something like that. there's a really well-known shoe designer that's very popular. His name's the Shoe Surgeon. So he takes apart shoes and rebuilds them, and his work is amazing. I'll just put it in this chat so you guys can see it. And he learned how to work with shoes through a local, I forgot what those people are called, but they're like the people that you go to fix your shoes. And the guy didn't want to take him. He was like, I don't need your help. And he approached him like every week just to be like, can I help you? I want to apprentice under you. I want to learn from you. And the guy kept saying, no, 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 no. One day he was like, can I just come in and sweep your floors? And the guy was like, okay, fine. And slowly he came in to sweep his floors, and he started to build a relationship with him. And soon enough, was able to kind of earn his role to be able to do an apprenticeship with this guy. But if you look up Dom's work, it's absolutely amazing. Cobblers, yes, that's the word. Anyway, so he has taken the skill of being a shoe cobbler into building what he has today as a creative. So I think with internships, there's a lot of opportunities for you to learn. And if you're pursuing internships, they can be short-term. It could be a month, it could be 3 months. Making sure that the exchange is aligned with your needs and wants, that builds with your career, or you just want to learn about business. I've interned with a freelance illustrator where I just scanned his notebooks every day. That's all I did. But what I got was I had a chance to listen to him talk to clients. I saw how he formatted invoices. I saw him get frustrated when people didn't pay him on time. I learned so many things about how to run my business by just being present. And that's the value of internships. And you also want to be clear on what you're bringing to the table and kind of speak those terms when you start your internship as well. And also know when to step away if it's an internship that no longer serves you or doesn't serve you or didn't show up as you may have initially thought. But building bridges never hurts. Even with my internship at Complex Media, I interned when I was a sophomore in college, which is 13 years ago. To this day, I still get calls from the art director I worked with who has gone on to do other things. I'm still friends with people that I interned with who were interns or employees of the company. So there's just so many great bridges that you can build, and friendships and mentorships that you can build through those experiences. But in many ways, internships is also like dating, where you can go in, you have this great idea of like, oh my gosh, I want to do this internship. I want to be this person. You go in and then you go through it and you're like, this is not really what I was looking for. But at least you can come out of it knowing what you do want. And that's the whole journey of it. And so if you've got the time, it's the best currency you have. Do your research as far as, who you want to be able to intern with, or work with, or shadow with, whatever you want to label it as, and definitely offer references. They're always helpful. Don't be afraid to be turned away, and persistence never hurts. But persistence is great, but delivery is also really important, meaning make sure that you deliver and make it worthwhile for the person that you're shadowing as well. And if you guys do end up interning or shadowing or even being a ghost student in a class, like when I was auditing courses, you just want to be grateful and mindful of the professor's time or the person that you're working with's time and the other students or coworkers that you're working with while you're there. Meaning basic stuff, make sure you show up on time, make sure you do your job well, whatever. And you should be very clear to either commit or get out of the situation that you're in. So this brings us to our first action piece. If you guys can all open up and go into your resources document, we're going to take everything I kind of just said and apply it into some quick thoughts for yourselves. You guys can go ahead and open up the emailed template doc. The question that we're going to kind of work on is, what are the resources around that you can take advantage of right now? I'll expand on that in a second once I open up the document myself. So email template, let me get that open. So these are 3 different examples of literally what I've emailed people before. So I'm not kidding. I've gone through my inbox and searched up an old email that I've sent out to somebody and reformatted it. So if you're seeking an internship or auditing a course, definitely take a look at the 2. If majority of you guys are looking at cold emails for job opportunities, here's a 3rd version below. The underlines, definitely always read through everything, because I always send out emails with slight typo errors occasionally, especially when I'm sending out too many at once. But going back to the question is, what are the resources around that you can take advantage of right now? So what I mean by that question is, as I was talking about internships, as I was talking about mentors and people that you look up to, is there anyone that comes to mind that, I'll kind of give you guys a couple minutes to maybe jot down someone that you admire, an illustrator, an artist. I mean, it's summertime here in America, but, maybe you've got, well, we can't really travel either, and it's also COVID, but, imagine if things were normaler. Like, if you could do a shadow for someone, like, what would that look like? And there's so many things that you can offer people, like sweeping the floor, scanning things for them, archiving imagery for them, archiving sketchbooks. That's actually what I did for my internship with an illustrator. People always need help. And so think about some artists that you admire that are in your local areas that you might be able to reach out to and offer your support to be able to learn from. And I think it's always really exciting to be able to shadow other creators and learn what their process is like. And then jumping to the cold email portion as well. Let's see. So the email template that I have is kind of like a quick, short, sweet introduction. So one big thing about emails is you don't want to make it too long. Don't tell them your life story. Keep it short, keep it simple. People have no idea who you are. So you want to give them kind of the bait and the peacock effect of what you bring to the table. So in my email, for example, I say that what I'm looking for, meaning I'm open for campaigns and activations, and you share a little bit of what kind of work you've done before. And for many of you, if you haven't really gotten a lot of names, maybe it's best to name the skills that you do have. So maybe say some things like, if you're applying for a publishing role, maybe say you've worked on book projects in the past, or something that's somewhat relatable, so that it poses you as a person of value in the situation. And then, of course, if you guys have a media deck or a deck of your work, a portfolio PDF, a one-sheet PDF, feel free to attach it. The only thing I would say is please make sure it's not 10 megabytes. People always send attachments or portfolios and emails, and they're very, very long. Sometimes it helps to also just grab screenshots and just throw a couple illustrations in there. I personally also get emails like this from illustrators, and I might not respond, but I always save them in my Rolodex as well for future work. And a couple tips and suggestions, if you scroll down in that document, is make a note on your end, once you send out the email, to follow up every 2 to 3 weeks until they respond. So that's the persistence factor. Obviously, you don't want to be annoying, like you're harassing the person. So I would send the first email, and then I would follow up maybe in 2 weeks, just to be like, hi, just wanted to kindly check in to see if you had a chance to check out my work. Again, would love to work with you guys. Maybe just say, don't want to come off too persistent, but just wanted to make sure this made it into your inbox, something like that. And then, of course, they might not respond again, or they do, which is great. A lot of times, most of the time, they don't respond. But sometimes they do say something like, hey, we'll keep your work in the Rolodex. And mind you, I do this once a year. In December, I look up all the people I wish I could work with, and I research their names, and I try to find email addresses, and I send this exact email that I'm sharing with you guys to companies I want to work with, and I do the same exact thing. I follow up to see if they're interested. So I think after 2 or 3 follow-ups, that's the second one is great. The third one might be kind of pushing it, and if they don't respond, just leave it. You might want to wait a few more months before you follow up with them. And so one thing I would suggest is consider using an email pixel tracker to see if anyone is actually interested in you. So a lot of times with technology today, you can send an email, depending on what kind of app you use. There's so many email apps out there, but you can actually see if the person opened your email or how many times they opened your email, depending on what kind of app you have. So a lot of times I will use these apps for me to be able to know when to follow up and their level of interest in my work. And so once you know the email structure, You can also look for their colleagues on LinkedIn. You can also find their Facebook or Instagram and contact these people as well. I would always suggest kind of exhausting the communication as best as you can while timing your frequency, while not making it come off like you're harassing them. Like, there's a fine line here, so practice the common sense and feel free to bounce your frequency ideas with coworkers and friends. So, another thing that I'll mention really quickly too is cold emails allow people to know about you, but it also gives them a prompt to Google and search more about you. So you just want to make sure your social media trail is really clean, which is a perfect transition into the next portion of this chat that we're doing. So presentation and professionalism. You guys can close out the email template now if you'd like. So hopefully you guys have had a chance to be able to write a couple action items that you can take. So presentation and professionalism. I just kind of want to really quickly, this is something I've always valued even when I was a student. What are some do's and don'ts of professionalism in the creative space, but also in the social media space? So whether it's a freelancing etiquette, getting jobs, of course, looking and dressing the part. I mean, it's not as relevant these days because we're all behind a webcam camera, but literally like how you present, when people are talking about dressing professionally, I would say apply the same exact thing to how your work looks like online and how you present yourself online. So let's talk about social media first. There is definitely, actually, you know what, sorry, I'm going to do website first. So with your website, I'm assuming many of you guys have a website. If you don't, I still meet plenty of amazing professional people that don't have websites, which totally like boggles my mind. But a lot of times, if you're looking to potentially revamp your website or you're looking to improve your website, it's really, really helpful to do research on your part, meaning research, I would say a couple things, which is research websites that you admire and that you think sticks out to you, looks different, that you would like your website to look like. The other thing too is to also research your competitors and people that you admire. How did their websites look like and what does that presentation look like, so that you can use it as a source of inspiration and kind of set it as a bar of what professionalism should look like. And then really quickly going into social media as well. I'm sure many of you guys know this. If you don't, everything you upload to the internet leaves a trail. So share your images strategically, share your text strategically. Obviously, people have gotten dragged because of Twitter and things that they've tweeted years ago. Same thing with images on the internet. So make sure that, whatever you put out on the internet, especially with all the metadata and whatever, is like something that you want, or is a positive reflection of yourself, or something that is like a thumbs up from you that you approve, right? So it's very easy to do research on people nowadays. So how can you make sure your public presentation is professional and also bringing in the right traffic? We'll be kind of sifting through social media stuff in a bit, but general do's and don'ts, right? I'm just going to list off a few. Feel free to go inside the chat and share amongst yourselves. But general do's and don'ts. So if you have a page that's your professional page, say you are a web designer, I think a couple things that would be helpful for you to share is, obviously the work you've done, your process. Sometimes it's nice to see a face against it. Some people don't like showing their faces as well. That's totally fine. But content that speaks true to your goals as far as what you want your social media to stand for. Don'ts, maybe don't post pictures of your cute baby and dog or something like that, unless of course it's in the context of like you working or something like that. So sometimes people post a huge array of images from work, and then selfies or something like that, and dogs and cheese or something. I think it's really important to make sure that your social page really does reflect what you want your goals to be. So if your digital page is to really share your life, go for it. Awesome. But just be mindful of how that might be tied to your work as well. So something to be mindful of is to know your goals and to know your audience. Social media has a huge impact on work opportunities. Just to give you an example, one of my internships 12, 13 years ago. I was a junior graphic designer, basically, and my boss at the time had asked me, hey, Sophia, do you know of any other designers that would want to work with me? And I was like, oh, yeah, I know a couple. And then I gave him a few names, and he sat next to me and he said, pull up their Facebooks. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, just pull up their Facebooks. I was like, you don't want to see their work? He goes, no. He just clicks through their profile photos and makes his judgment on character from there. So that's when I was just like, oh my gosh, you know, not that I had any like terrible incriminating photos, but it's just something to be hyper mindful of. Another example is you never know who's watching you as well. There's so many work opportunities that have come about because people have, you know, studied your Instagram or studied your work or gone through the research to figure out which designer they want to bring on to a project. And so you want to be mindful that you're building the messaging you want your clients and your tribe to see. And so we'll definitely be talking about how social media branding and marketing can also lead to gaining more freelance work. How to reach out to a brand using the internet to build positive awareness is huge component of it. So if you're creative, consider sharing your work on digital platforms such as Dribbble, and also whatever your www website is. Couple website, let's see, I'm trying to find it right now. There's a quick, easy to build website resources that I wanted to share. Cargo is great. I built my site off of Cargo. And then Cargo also has this other website that I'm sharing in the chat here called Persona. So Persona is helpful if you're like, I don't know, a writer or public figure, or you don't need too many pages to be able to show your creative work. It's really simple and easy to use, and there's some really beautiful effects in there that you can add on. And then Cargo is just a staple. I'm sure many of you guys know that, but it allows you to share a little bit about yourself, your work, your goals, your professional images, and you know, hopefully you've got something like that going already. If not, now is the time. And one fun fact as well, not fact, but tip as well, is you can also consider taking your website, consolidating it and building it into a little miniature deck. That's maybe 4 or 5 pages. So a cover, one that's your about page, one that's clients you've worked with, one that's examples of your work, or build 2 or 3 different case studies of your work and send that out to clients as well as a nice little takeaway. Don't see it as a whole new thing you have to build, just see it as an extension or compressed version of your website. So going into the action portion, going to give you guys just a quick couple minutes to jot down any thoughts that you might have. Think about cleaning up your social media trail. If there's anything incriminating that you have, not incriminating, but you know, things that might deter a potential client from hiring you. Definitely give that some thought, maybe, or if you don't have time right now, add it to a to-do list or something. If you guys are taking notes, I highly recommend creating a little portion in your notebook or on your page that says actions, so you know what actions you need to take once this course is done later today, and you can schedule it out during your week. And so if you don't already have a website, consider building one. If you already have a website, consider doing a little audit for yourself creatively to see what works and what doesn't. Every time is always a good time to be able to refresh, update your website, and give it a slight facelift. And for those of you who actually are interested in social media, I am teaching another workshop next week, which Madeline briefly talked about earlier during the introduction. So if you guys are interested, check out dribbble.com/learn. I will be walking you through how to build an online digital presence. So I have about, I think like 66,000 followers on Instagram right now. All of it was built organically and strategically. And feel free to look through my page a little bit so that you're familiar with what my social media branding looks like. All of it is very intentional. I will be walking everyone through, let's see, I might as well just read it off of the description on the site. But you guys will basically learn how to attract opportunities through how you present your social media. Obviously, photography, editing, content, some simple tips and tricks that are available in the app, and also how to build an actual calendar or just general boundaries so that you know what to post and how. Setting goals to be able to grow an engaged and loyal following through organic content, and also developing strategies so that you're not just like posting whatever. How can we post and create basically an Instagram portfolio of your work that attracts clients, that presents yourself in a very professional manner? And we'll be touching on data and analytics and tracking your growth and optimizing your engagement in healthy ways. So if you guys are interested, definitely check it out. I'm sure there's a link to it here, which I'll drop below. Oh, more people are sharing it. Okay, that's great. And another sip of water. And we'll get into the art of the hustle, which is the idea of just making things work in your favor, pretty much, and trying really hard when it comes to just working for yourself. Because someone said this really recently when it comes to freelancers, which is you shoot what you kill. And I was just like, or no, you eat what you kill. Yeah, you eat what you kill. And I was like, yeah, that's true. And I'm really, really good at killing, thank God, and hunting. But that's basically what you have to do when it comes to clients. Actually, Dribble team, do you mind putting in the timer as well onto this framework when we have a chance? Thanks. Jumping through fearlessness, hustling your way to your goals. So this is a true story. There has been definitely times in my career, maybe I want to say like, I don't know, when you freelance, if you guys are freelancers, you can probably relate to this, but when it's tough, it's really tough. When it's dry and the work is slow, it is so slow. It's like, it's really overwhelming and scary. There's been so many times in my career where I've thought to myself, maybe I should just go to the CVS across the street and see if they're willing to hire me right now, because like I really need the money. So what I mean by kind of this idea of fearlessness is like, don't, the idea of leaving your ego at the door, the fearlessness of like, just go for it. I mean, you're already freelancing, like most of us don't really know when the next check is going to come, especially next year. Or if you do have a full-time job, like that's amazing, good for you. But definitely don't be afraid to get kind of a part-time job if you need to. Get clear on financial management. That's a huge skill to be able to add on to your plate, especially when you work for yourself. But you have to wear so many hats, from being the head of marketing to updating your website to auditing your social media to dealing with your taxes and stuff like that. So just something to consider. But it just comes down to how bad do you want to meet your goals and how hard are you willing to try. So the example of just trying to be persistent and asking this shoe cobbler, hey, can I study under you? Can I study under you? To me sending out 100 emails a day to random people that I could find online that had posted job listings for designers. So you got to ask yourself, how hard are you trying? And one thing I always say is it's never the client's job to know that you exist. Like there's the future client's job. Like it's not their responsibility to know that your work exists. It's your responsibility to make sure that they know that you exist. So put your best foot forward. And back to your bridges, make sure you're keeping a healthy Rolodex of your contacts. Touch base on them regularly to stay connected. Obviously with social media, it's a lot easier to stay connected with people, although sometimes the algorithm will completely make someone disappear from your life. Not sure how that works, but definitely, like we talked about earlier with internships, offering free help, internship opportunities to learn and get your foot through the door, proper presentation of who you are so that when you kick off the conversation, people can follow up. And look for opportunities to continuously refine your skills and schedule it in if you need to, and definitely check in with your contacts for small side opportunities. I continue to do that when work is hard. I will go through my entire list. I do this like once a year as well, where I'll look at the list of all the clients that paid me or worked with me last year And sometimes I email them again to be like, hey guys, just wanted to pop in, check in, see if you guys need help with anything. Maybe you can share some recent projects that you worked on recently, but continue to build that bridge. Obviously, don't be invasive about it. But every few months, it's always fun to kind of pop in because it also brings your name and kind of your work to the top of their mind. So another action that we're going to take right now is building a very simple Excel spreadsheet of your work contacts. So if you go to I personally like to use Airtable. In the resources document, there's an Airtable template, but you guys can also use Google Sheets or Excel, whatever works for you. But the whole point of this exercise is, what are the people within your immediate community you work with or have worked for or have studied with that might be a healthy stepping stone or bridge to learn from? So we talked a little, we had already kind of made a list of people we admire and might want to work with, but maybe make a list of the clients that you've worked with last year and the year before, and just make this huge hit list. Maybe it's going through your old invoices, maybe it's going through email, but consider drafting an email touch base to be like, hey, just checking in, loved working together. And sometimes I even remind them, hey, we worked on this project a couple years ago, hope all is well. Wanted to check in to see if there's any creative needs in the pipeline. It's also important to time yourself as well. So end of the year, it's always good to, or beginning of the year is a fresh new budget. All the companies have new budgets, so it's always good to kind of make these introduction emails in January, but shortly after everyone's returned from their holidays. If we'll also talk about quarters within a business fiscal year of when's a good time to be able to time your outreach to reach out to these different businesses. And what else is there? What was I going to say? Let's see, immediate community, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so definitely make a list of these folks that you'd like to reach out and contact with while pursuing new people. So once a year, I like to get clear with myself, and I'll also walk you guys through what exactly later in this course today of how I go through that. So the exercise right now, you can do it now or save it for later, but basically build a simple Excel spreadsheet of contacts that you have, meaning one column for the person, their email address, what you worked on with them. I like to use Airtable because I will show you how I use it in a second once I pull up the tab. It makes it really, really easy to archive people and information, obviously. So I will share a little bit with you how I do things. Let me see if I can find my document. So here it is. Okay, so this is a very crazy person type A thing to do, but I will show it to you. This is obviously when I have time, but now is the time, right? Okay, so with Airtable, I have clients I've worked with, dream list of clients I want to work with, public speaking that I've done, agencies I've worked with and people I want to work with, services that I provide as a business, and you're able to link. There's this cool link feature in Airtable, so I can link to what projects I had worked on with Adidas, and it'll create an entire list for me, and what agencies that I work with. It just kind of interlinks everything for you. And then, so with former clients, I make a list of the people I've worked with. I categorize them. Clearly, this is when I had a lot of time. I also wrote down what project was it that I worked with them, what year was it, because a lot of times people might ask you, what you've done, and sometimes you can't remember. And it's a good way to kind of just continue archiving. Here's a list. It's called Dream List because it's companies I've never worked with. So I make a list of all the companies I would like to work for, what categories they are, and then I start Googling and searching on LinkedIn and try to see if I can find someone. And then I make a checklist of whether or not I've reached out to them. And it's this endless list of people that one day I would like to work with. And yeah, it's just a great app I like to use to be able to archive your work. If you guys have the Airtable template document from the resources file pulled up, definitely write down lists of people that you've worked with and you've worked for. Take some time to think about people that have hired you that you enjoyed working with. And the thing is, people leave companies all the time and move on. So you can stay connected with them via LinkedIn and social media, or you can also look at who their colleagues are on LinkedIn and then email the people, since you already have the email format, to reintroduce yourself. And so let's see. Yeah, so this is pretty much the spreadsheet exercise. If you guys have time, definitely go through it. So we're getting to the end of our, not end, actual end, but close to the end of the first portion of this course, and then we can jump into Q&A. So kind of closing out with this a little bit is mentality is everything. It starts with you investing time in yourself. But you know, if you focus on other people, you'll never be better than them. That was something that a friend of mine told me when I was in college. I was like, oh my God, this illustrator is so amazing. I wish I could be like them one day. And my friend was like, yeah, if you try to aim for that, you're never going to be better than them. And I was like, this guy's really amazing, so I don't think I'll ever be better than him. But, you know, I appreciate the sentiment there. But confidence sells too. So work on yourself, be confident in your growth, show people that what you can do, they can't find anywhere else. And you can only do that through honing in on your skills, learning new skills, and you know, spending the time to really get to know yourself and what you're good at, which we will do some exercises on in a bit. But your personal areas of improvement, write it out, things that you want to work on. Meditate on them. Humility is a form of respect and self-care. So the right attitude will always kind of carry your work further. And obviously you guys are tuning in from all around the world. Social culture, barriers, don't let them hinder you. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, but I've also dealt with my own different types of barriers through just being an Asian American and also being a woman as well in the creative spaces that I've worked in. But your mentality is everything. I know that I've spent the time and energy and 50,000 hours investing in the skills that I have, and I'm confident and I can walk in and present to clients and show clients my work and know that they're not going to be able to really find someone else to do what I do in the way that I do it. And also just on the point of like taking care of yourself, I'm going to wear my blue light blocking glasses from staring at the screen the next few hours. But if you guys have any, definitely get some. Get into stretching. Save up money for a standing desk if you can. Watch your posture. Do your stretches. I do make it a habit. It used to be try months ago, but I actually have been able to make it a habit. Actually, there's a great book I read called Tiny Habits. I'm going to share it with you guys. But it's taught me to be able to, I always have this like endless list of things I want to do and try and get good at. But this book has really helped me be able to build it into my life and kind of hack my own brain to build habits into my life. So now I can proudly say I meditate and stretch every day before I start work, but I only do it for 5 minutes. But it still makes all the difference in the world. So there's always opportunity for growth and taking care of yourself. Your body is the machine. My eyeballs are, you know, really important for the work that I do. My wrists, my hands. So, you know, making sure that I'm stretching and taking care of myself, because if you don't take care of the machine that allows you to create in terms of your brain, your body, and so forth. And sleep, I'm obsessed with sleep. If anyone is really, really interested in sleep, there's a great book I'm reading right now called Why Do We Sleep? Book, maybe? Yeah, Why We Sleep. I also bought a Aura ring as well. This is a ring that allows me to kind of track my sleep. And by reading into sleep science, I'm going to nerd out for a second, but by reading into sleep science, it's allowed me to better understand my body instead of fighting my body. And I know a lot of designers encourage this mentality of not sleeping and working and it's not healthy. It's not healthy in the long run, and you really, really feel the impact of it. Aura ring is here as well. Anyways, so you guys know the 411 there. Let me also continue on really quickly. So refining your skills, never stop learning, never stop practicing, never stop failing. So literally, I want to work better and be more optimized, and I feel overwhelmed sometimes with my timelines and work, and how can I improve my sleep? I'm tired, I'm stressed out. I'm trying to learn to care for my body, and that's what got me into the science of things. And I practice it every day. It's only improved my work, and sometimes I mess up and forget to meditate in the mornings, and I fail, but I try again the next day. And so even how that relates to work, that's a big reason why I started Undo Ordinary with my business partner, the health and wellness platform. She and I were both creators. She does 3D work, I do 2D work. So she does like set design and she builds lighting, she does all this cool stuff, but we were both on our own fitness journey of caring for our bodies. And I'll share a little bit with you as well. Like when I first graduated college, I was spending so much time sitting in front of a computer. I was getting shooting pains in my neck, my wrist, my low back. It was really impacting my ability to work because I would just be sitting and working. That actually got me into going to the gym so that I could force myself to move my body. And going to the gym taught me how to eat better. And so I wanted to create a platform called, you guys can probably look it up. I'll share a link for you so you guys can see. But I started Undo Ordinary with my business partner because, there's a lack of conversation about self-care in the creative community. So we wanted to make something for us and also show diversity and inclusivity in the health and wellness community, because a lot of times it can feel very elitist and very foreign. So in short, we wanted to create this platform because our journey at the gym was very similar to our journey in work, meaning I might not be able to lift these weights today, but if I keep trying, I will be able to one day. If I take care of myself and keep practicing, I will one day. In the same way with the skills that you have with design or pursuing work, it's the same thing. So people come to you, you want to give people a reason to come to you because you do more than just check a box. So you want to make sure that you're really equipped to be able to deliver what they're expecting from you. So definitely, it's good to push yourself. It's good to understand your threshold, but I really highly recommend studying and looking into the science of our brain, our bodies, so that it powers, kind of how we work. Okay, so this is a fun quote from a rapper named Kendrick Lamar, but it was a quote that really stood out to me. But it says, when the opportunity presents itself, it'll put you in a place you never imagined, which is really true because, even in my own journeys of the projects that I've worked on, being able to work on certain projects in the recent years really has allowed me to, I didn't realize I could do public speaking until the opportunity came up, and I was like, I guess I'll try it. Or I didn't know that I could design a sneaker until, a collection until the opportunity came. So when you keep at it, like keeping your head down, working on it, not focusing on Instagram, what everyone else is doing in terms of, trying to compare it to your own work is very important. And health is wealth. We've already talked about this part before. So action piece, start listing people within your inner circle, your community with skill and talent. What can you guys create together? So with Undo Ordinary, the health and wellness platform that I had, we worked, if you guys check out the link that I shared here in the chat, everything that you see on there, we created ourselves with our friends. So we did the photo shoots. We found a photographer, a stylist, a model. We learned how to produce these shoots. We learned how to produce a magazine by finding a writer to be paired with an illustrator to be able to write an article for me to lay out. We learned about production. We learned about all these things, and it was friends working with friends. It was me reaching out to people that I admired as an artist or illustrator that might be willing to do free work. Really, we didn't have money. That's the other thing. We didn't have any money, and we did this all for ourselves. So the potential is really limitless, and you don't really know until you you put yourself out there. So maybe you can be someone that offers that opportunity to be able to, or a platform and reason to be able to create something with your community. A great place for you to be able to put these ideas is definitely the Airtable template as well, or Google Sheets, or whatever you guys are working off of. But again, it's making a list of people in your inner circles, opportunities that are there that you can start threading together. The last portion, for the most part, is my favorite, systems and toolkits. So I work on a lot. There's always different timelines. It's hard to keep track of everything. And so I wanted to share some of my favorite apps, how you can visualize your goals. They help me visualize goals and track them. So I love using Notion. It's really great to be able to collaborate, and it's like a wormhole, it's like a twilight zone that you can kind of build out to collaborate with other people. I've built magazines, projects, future projects. It's a place that I can put all of my ideas in. There's also Trello, which is really easy, your classic Kanban board. What I like about it is if you're a solo artist, you don't like to be too overwhelmed, it's kind of like a visual digital corkboard for you to be able to track projects. And all of these apps have their own templates and blogs for you to be able to read. Let me see, there's another article I wanted to send you that you can read through and see examples of how other people have used that app. Let's see, there you go. And another one that I personally like, I'm sure many of you guys use checklist apps. This is a to-do app that I like to use. I love their blog as well, but it allows me to be able to track and prioritize what I'm doing every day. And they have one of my favorite blogs. So at least like once or twice a year, I spend like an hour or two just reading articles on their blog. It's like this wormhole I can't stop reading. This is a huge article. All of you guys need to read this. This is the most important article you can read in your entire career, which is about time blocking. In this digital age, we have so much we need to do. We have so many distractions. I'm sure maybe some of you guys are familiar with Deep Work by Cal Newport. It's a fantastic book as well, but the article is kind of a good short read for you to be able to figure out what you need to do every day. How do you spend every minute and get it done and not go insane? So that I highly recommend. And then one more app that I recommend as well is VimCal. It's a recent startup. It's called VimCal. It's a great calendar app, but it really helps me move quickly. It's hotkey based, and I'm able to schedule phone calls with people all around the world very easily without looking at time zones and losing my mind. And I'm sure if you're a very busy designer and creative, you probably have a lot of people trying to schedule calls with you all the time. And instead of sending a link where it can feel very foreign and distant, especially when it's an important client, VimCal allows you to select your slots and be able to book appointments with people very easily. So I wanted to share this link here. It does require a bit of they do a one-on-one onboarding, but it's totally worthwhile. And then the last app that I would recommend here is Superhuman. I'm a huge believer of it. You do have to pay for it. And what I love about it is it's hotkey based. It's allowed me to be able to move, to work faster at a much faster speed. The interface gives me less anxiety, which is huge. And they also have great pixel tracking features, meaning I can see how many times someone has opened up my email and also on what devices. So those are some of my tips and tricks. Definitely look through it and share it amongst yourselves. And so all in all, definitely working with your community is super important. Honoring and respecting everyone's roles, the gifts that we all have. How can we come together and work and collaborate with our peers? And I think, there's just so much opportunity to be able to connect with like-minded people around you and assess what you guys can build together. Maybe you want to build a book, maybe you want to do a photo shoot, maybe you want to just create. And I think on Instagram, everyone's saying me, but we should really focus on we, because as a community, we can do so much more together. So that's pretty much it for the first portion. We've got a whole nother segment later on, which is really, really, really exciting. We will be going through the second portion of this workshop, which is defining a brand vision, setting goals and milestones for you to be able to achieve some of and apply some of the things that we talked about here, and developing a client strategy for your work that's catered to you. So we can jump into Q&A at this time. I guess I will go into the Q&A part of the chat thingy. And then whoever wants to ask questions can start asking questions, and then we also have the ability to be able to pull people up on stage so that it's like a split screen situation. So options are there. Any questions so far? I'm obviously moving my standing desk, standing the whole time. Okay. Madeline, do we have any questions that we wanted to kick off with, or do you want me to just pull from? How do we want to do this?
Onto stage. Attendees, if any of you want to come up onto stage and speak to Sophia like I'm doing face to face, raise your hand in the question and answer panel, and then we'll grab you and put you onto stage. But for now, Sophia, I'll just pull questions onto stage like this one is here.
Or I can't hear you. Hold on. Yeah? Do you want me to just answer what's on the screen, or do we want to do some from what people texted during the week? Like, I know people DM'd us. Okay. Have you ever dealt with imposter syndrome? And so what are some ways that you can combat it? Yeah, I've dealt with imposter syndrome for 10 years of my entire career, because I would always shrink into a ball every time someone was like, so what do you do for work? I had a very, very difficult time being able to explain to people what I do, because I do so much. And I would sound like a crazy person if I said that. I have my own magazine of 9 years. I have a tech startup. It's a sneaker marketplace. I'm an illustrator. I do magazines. I do websites. I've produced photo shoots. There's just an endless list. But it's only become this endless because I didn't listen to what people told me, which is, don't try to pick one thing and be really good at it. Why can't I be good at all these things? But when it came to imposter syndrome, it was very challenging. I've tried reading books about it. It didn't really help. I think I just had to kind of come to terms with acceptance, I guess, and also not being worried about what other people think. And a lot of it also had to do with just being like, this is kind of aggressive, but I was just like, just because people want to try to put you in a box, but just because you don't fit in their box doesn't mean you can't exist. So that's always kind of been my attitude. That's kind of helped me move forward from it. But I actually have struggled with it quite a bit over the years. So it's still very recent for me to be comfortable with it as well. So you're not alone. Yeah. What should you put as the subject line for cold emails? I'll just write hi from Sophia Chang, and people will be like, who's Sophia Chang? And then they'll open the email. I mean, people give me cold shoulders all the time as well. So sometimes if people give you the cold shoulder, it's helpful to do a follow-up in 3 months. Sometimes I do it once a year for 3 years straight. Because I don't give up. I definitely follow up with people all the time if I'm persistent. But sometimes people also just like don't need your help. But if you really want to be aggressive about it, which I don't have a problem doing, is I will email them and be like, hey, if you're not interested, just let me know, because then I'll just stop following up with you. But I just wanted to be genuine with my intention. And you don't have to be too professional about it. You can just be honest. And usually that sparks up people's sets of fire under their ass to respond to you. And what do you advise on posting on a website when you're still a student in college? Advise on posting on a website. I mean, post whatever you want people to know about you. If you're trying to, again, if you're on a dating website and you want people to date you, you'll probably post some stuff that'll help you get people wanting to date you. In the same way, for your website for business, like you want to make sure you're posting stuff that makes people want to hire you for work. So yeah. How do you find motivation to stay on to start and finish side projects? Oh, it's extremely challenging. There is a great article that's on Todoist that I came across this week. There's a technique called the Pomodoro technique. So here's an article that you can read about. I don't have a huge problem with procrastination because I'm actually thankfully pretty disciplined from just having to do stuff, from always being way too busy. But Rachel, I'm going to put a link here in this chat for you to check out. It's an article around procrastination, and this is a great technique here called the Pomodoro technique that I just learned this week, and I kind of tried it a bit. It's kind of cool, but maybe it's for you, maybe it's not. There's also the Eat the Frog technique. Eat the frog. There's different tips and tricks. It's like workouts, you know, like I like yoga, but I really hate spin. You just got to try out what works for you, what doesn't. And sometimes one thing that might work for someone else really doesn't work for you. So what's most important is to look through resources to be able to figure out what works for you. So if you are in a situation, for Katie, I would say work on side projects. Work on side projects yourself or work on side projects with friends. So if you work with friends, that's a little bit more fun, motivating, and you don't have to do too many. Maybe you do one a quarter and you focus on that. This way you at least can populate some projects in your portfolio on your free time. Is that it? How much it's important to do presentation? How to become a good designer? What's that mean? How important is it to do? How important is presentation? Well, presentation is, again, let's use a dating app as an example. Presentation is really important. If you want to get hired, make sure your work looks good.
Hi, Sophia. We're just inviting someone into the. Hi, we're just inviting Rachel to come up on stage with you to ask a question.
Cool. Hi, Rachel. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming on stage.
Yeah, of course. So my question you actually kind of answered. It was about the side projects and like how you find motivation to keep going on them. But I guess since I'm up here, I'd love to ask, like, what's been some of your, or one of your favorite like side projects that you do for yourself, not necessarily for clients or for work, but just projects that you like to do for your own enjoyment?
Oh gosh. Well, I don't really have that much time these days, but I also have a tendency to be a crazy person and turn my side projects into unnecessarily large real projects like Common Ace and Undo, you know, like they were businesses because I loved it and wanted to do it. And so I built it, you know, with business partners, but it's like, why not, you know? So that's terrible to say, but I think, you know, side projects is always, I love reading on productivity. So that's always like a huge side project for me. I actually used to, like when I was in elementary school, I used to like never pay attention, obviously, because I was too busy drawing. So like I'm really bad at math and reading and I can never pay attention, basically have like ADD, I swear. So I would also buy like all these books off of Amazon all the time. Like people would be like, you should read this book, and I'll buy it and it just sits there. And I would always like have a hard time reading. So I actually took a reading course and it has helped me just feel more, again, like have skills, like better reading skills to be able to feel confident, feel comfortable. And now I realize there's like a whole world of amazing information for me out there. So I read on whatever it is I want. So it's like kind of like dialing things back, you know, like I wanted to learn about habits. So I read or building better habits. So I read a book on habits, or so I think you can be your own side project if you wanted to, and taking care of yourself and taking care of things that you want to learn. Because if I can be more energized by learning more about sleep and taking care of myself, then I can do more projects. So yeah.
Yeah, I liked your idea of like creating a list of areas of personal development that you just want to work on. I feel like definitely creating lists and being able to check things off or cross things off is so, I love it. I love crossing things off a list, and
yeah,
I think that would definitely be helpful.
Yeah, and check out Todoist as well. They have just, I like using it. It's just really helpful for me to like prioritize instead of having one long list of things I have to do and get anxiety and feel like I can't do anything at all and procrastinate. Like it helps me reorganize things in a very like simple, fast way to just get things done in a very focused way.
Yeah, definitely. Because like I just graduated college, and so I do have a good amount of time, but I feel like there's so many things that I want to be working on or doing or practicing, and it just feels like, you know, the day just gets away from me.
Yeah.
So I'm also excited to read your like the articles you sent on like time blocking. And
so key. And I always reread them. So sometimes I feel very flustered with work, and I reread these articles to ground myself as well. So they're not like one-time resources. You can totally like refer back to them again.
Yeah. Do you have like a database of articles that you've like read that you like to keep on tab or something like that?
I kind of just plugged a bunch of them in here during the chat.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. Thank you for doing this today and for doing this workshop.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure. All right, great. All right, let's do 2 more questions and then we'll do a break because we got more to go through. Okay, Jake, is it worth, wait, Madeline, do you want to bring in the person from the audience, or do you want to, yeah. Do you want to bring in the Cyan, or do you want me to answer Jake's question? Can you hear me? Oh.
Hey.
Hi. Hello.
Hi. So actually my question was regarding this place where, you know, you talked about applying for internships. So in India, we've been applying for certain internships as well. But at times there are situations where the internship doesn't go as we expect them to go.
Of course,
so
yeah.
in those situations, what would you suggest? You know, should we leave off, or just should we drag our internship till the end just to get the certification and get paid if they are paying? What is your suggestion and what is your take on that?
Yeah, I think it's a fine line. It's very dependent on the situation as well. So like, totally hear you. Sometimes it doesn't work out like you expect. So you do have to ask yourself, sometimes it's, maybe there's a great prize at the end, you know, like what is will I benefit from this? Will the certification actually really make a difference in my career trajectory? If the answer is a confident yes, go with your gut, then yeah, maybe stick it through. But obviously, if it's not really serving you, you're not learning, your boss is mean and crazy, and you really don't, the certification really doesn't make it that big of a difference, then of course, like, just leave it. And I would say cut the cord sooner than later. And the same thing with practice. The more you practice something like that, to be able to get the nerves to be able to say, hey, I don't want to do this anymore, the easier it can be in the future. And you'll feel better afterwards. And of course, if it's a monetary reason, then of course that can be very challenging as well. But I think there's also opportunity for you to stagger your time so that as you're slowly you're planning on leaving, you can also start looking at the same time for new opportunities.
There's one more follow-up, Sophia. You know, you would realize I am actually a first-year student myself. I'm only 19 years old. Okay, so I have 3 other years to complete my graduation itself in UI UX design. I'm a bachelor degree student for that. And now the issue is, I and my partner both are attending this session, and we both have a company startup that we started, and our goal is to have financial independency by the year 2024. So I'm really speaking that out loud among all of the people attending. But you know, there's one more thing that has come in my mind when we think about it practically. So just let's put this into perspective, where we are not able to achieve that, and we are only putting all our time into the company's growth, etc., but we are not backing ourselves with any sort of thing. Then how are we going to get internships in the future, or maybe jobs? So what is your take on that? How should we deal with situations like those?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, congratulations. That sounds awesome. I'm sure it's a lot of work. It's really exhausting, so I can really relate for sure. I mean, I think a lot of times it's also just a general judge for yourself as well. Like, it's an investment, right? So in theory, any investment hopefully yields a return. So you have to weigh in on what your return is, right? Your return on your investment. So in your case, it's time and energy and skill. And that time and energy could be equally used to be doing internships to potentially better your future career, while at the same time, if you've got something great and it's a real gem, you're betting on yourself. I think that's the best bet you can make, but you got to make sure that you're making a bet, which is very risky, but you have to make sure that there is like proper strategy behind it, meaning you have this business, you build it. How are you planning on growing it? How are you planning on scaling it? What's the 5-year plan for it? And I think that the financial independence is fantastic, but it's also like it's hard. It's very challenging for sure. So as long as you're aware of the challenges and you know what's at stake, really, it's easier for you to be able to weigh the pros and cons and help you make your decision. Now, and these decisions are never easy, and none of the answers are wrong. It's only what you choose to go with, because that's what's true and correct for you in your own future. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Sophia. Really glad that you're taking the session. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks. Cool. I think we have one more person. Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Hi, I'm Fizza.
Hi, Fizza.
Hey, so it's more of a question for me than for you, but I would like to nitpick your brain about it. I am in the design field. I've been in the design field for a long time, but I work for, because of HIPAA violations, a lot of my work cannot be, shared.
Yeah.
And so I basically, the portfolio that I have is really old. So from, what we discussed earlier, yes, side projects, but I should work on side projects. But the thing is, I also wear a lot of hats. Video production did it, like coding, like I like you said, skill hoarding, that's me. I have gone into the field that I could. I taught myself how to code. I taught myself how to edit videos, and then After Effects. Like, I kept going on, and I wear all these hats as this one marketing director at this one company, and but I don't have any work to share or to show, and I do so much. And it's the work that I can't show or share is not, I wouldn't want to show that because it's not creative enough.
Have you ever asked the company or the HR department to see if this is like something you can share in your portfolio?
But it's not good enough. Like, how it doesn't appease my
then so then my question for you would be, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want to have a portfolio to be able to share? And if you really want it, then you got to work on the side projects, right? Because the unfortunately, it's kind of a stalemate in terms of the work that you've already done. You have the skills, but you can't share any of the work.
And the fun stuff that I do have that I can share is too old for me to share. And I don't know, should I put it up? Should I start from scratch? Start building an audience?
What do you think? Do you think that's a good representation of the work you want to be hired for?
I kind of want to switch careers up. That's why I took this workshop.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to take the bold step, I tried freelancing last year on the side. It's hard, I have to say it's not easy if you don't have enough clients. So I basically do have to start from scratch, and I do have to work on the side projects, but it's just a big question mark. How do you make the decisions? When do you make the cut? When do you think it's right for you to move on?
Well, I think prayer is always helpful. I like to make a list of things, and then, you can, I think that's the thing. These things are in your mind for a reason. And sometimes not every answer needs to be answered right away, and that in time and in life, the answers will show themselves, right? Maybe from that, maybe I would suggest for you is to write a list of everything you just said, like when, what, you know, how, and all that stuff, and try to like answering them. Write down your answers as an exercise for yourself to get clearer with your mind. And then also, you know, we did that exercise of resources around you. Maybe compare and contrast that list to be like, what do you, and, you know, ask yourself, what do you want to do? What are your skills? Well, we're actually,
I don't even know what to call myself. Am I an illustrator?
Well, don't worry, because we're going to take a break, and then we're going to actually talk about it in the next portion of the course later today. We're going to go through all your strengths and your weaknesses. We'll be able to go through what's the best way to be able to package who you are and be able to share that with the world.
Awesome.
Okay. Thanks, Fizza.
Thanks.
All right, guys. What do let's see. Do I have a little slide thing? Yeah, I have a little slide thing. So I will share it. But we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. Maybe like 15 minutes, or we can do 10 minutes too. I don't know how much time we have. Let's do 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and set a timer on my phone for 10 minutes. And feel free to use the restroom and get some water, and we'll hop back in. For those of you who are interested, we highly recommend the follow-up course for next week. If you guys want to dig through your social media a bit more, there's a lot of opportunity for that, always, for improvement. And there's a discount code on the screen if you're interested in it. But see you guys in 10 minutes. Bye. Okay, hi everyone. Sorry, I ended up doing the full 15 instead of the 10, but we are back. So let's get it started. Hopefully you've had a chance to stretch and relax. So what we're gonna go through now is some fun exercise work for you guys. It might make your brain hurt. What we'll do is go through, it's more of like a coaching, me kind of coaching you guys through the thought process. Before it was more of a prompt and then you guys can think about it. But this portion will require a bit of writing exercise from you guys and practice for yourselves. If you become overwhelmed or you're tired or you're hitting a wall, you guys can always refer back to this another time. I also teach this portion of the course if you ever need a refresher on Skillshare as well. The links are in the resource document. So we'll jump right in to creating clarity from the chaos. So lots of stuff happening all the time. Lots of things you want to do, lots of things you want to be, and it seems like it's never ending. But let's start and take a step back by going through a really fun exercise. We're going to take a beat. I call it the brand identity statement. So if you guys can jump into your resources document and open up your worksheet, this will be your working document for the rest of today's workshop. So this portion will be very workshop-y, so let's jump into it. So brand identity statement, it's basically defining who you are at the core and what your North Star is. I like to use the term North Star a lot of times, but what I mean by that is, like, who are you? What do you do? What do you offer for people? And the whole point of this exercise, it a lot of times can be actually your about page, but let's kind of sit through this is going to be similar to like almost like therapy in a way, where we're going to be doing a lot of self-reflection. So I've made this very fun fill in the blank. I am, so you can be illustrator, designer, UX, storyteller, fashion designer, whatever. You specialize in web design, UI interfaces. I serve the blank industries, tech industries, fashion, music, whatever it is. And my goal is to blank. Maybe your goal is to, that's usually the hardest one. Your goal is to solve problems. Your goal is to simplify workflows. Your goal is to make things beautiful. Your goal is to help people find what it is they're looking for, you know? So it's really an exercise of defining your role in the marketplace. Like, what are you? We go through what your responsibilities are, meaning what services do you provide? You specialize in X, Y, and Z. What helps is thinking about specific deliverables. And, you know, what results do you aim for? My goal is to, you know, blank. When do you know when the job is done, right? Do you know that the job is done because someone successfully did X, Y, and Z? And, you know, thinking about what results, results ideally you kind of envision. So to help a little bit, I know it's like a real quick change in pace, but this is really what the rest of the course today will be like. So for example, I'm going to give you an example for me. And also this exercise really helps with imposter syndrome, by the way, because when I had a really hard time trying to figure out who and what I was, this was an exercise that a friend of mine did with me. So I am a illustrator designer. In short, if I were to really bucket things in a smaller bucket, I specialize in art and design. I can also make a list of like all the things I do, whether it's magazine, you know, publication, web design, illustration, graphic design, blah, blah, blah. You can make a whole list if you want to. And then I serve so because over the years, I've worked with a lot of different type of companies, from tech to fashion to music to arts to whatever. I can list all of those. And then my goal is to and this, every time I do this exercise, usually my goal is to kind of change it. Sometimes it's, I think I've answered, tell stories, you know. That's how I always explain my work to people. I help brands tell stories. I help brands tell the story around a campaign, a message, or I help them tell a story around a product. So that's subject to my own work, but hopefully you guys will find some time to be able to fill this out. And the end goal is to actually turn everything into a full functioning sentence. So, you know, you are an artist, you specialize in painting portraits, you serve the publication industry. Maybe you're an editorial illustrator who does portraits of people all the time. And then your goal is to capture the likeness of someone or something like that, or, you know, capture the beauty behind someone. Like, you can always like kind of jazz it up a little bit, but the whole point is to, of course, compile it into a statement. And the exercise is more of a gesture. It really helps you to be able to pick apart who you are, what you serve, and what your goal is, and be able to see it from a bird's eye view. I find that it can oftentimes be very comforting and reassuring. And so we want to kind of start that off as the first step. And I will give you guys a couple minutes, maybe 1 minute, to go through this exercise for yourself. And of course, if you feel stuck, I'm just going to say a couple things. Your I am is basically, what are you? Your specialty is, what, you know, essentially what's your specialty in terms of craft. Industry can be who you serve, who you want to serve. And your goal is really results driven. When do you know when your work is done? When someone is happy, when whatever. Okay, we've got a lot more to cover through, so hopefully you guys have had a chance to kind of dabble with this. Maybe you got to jump back into it at a later time, but we've done the exercise of identifying, hopefully, who you are, what you do, or we had a chance to think about it. Now, we take our professional being of existence and we think about goals. So this is probably one of my favorite exercises ever. You can do it anytime, whenever you feel flustered, feel free to do this. As you can tell, I operate almost like a machine. I just kind of make lists, but a lot of times it's also to just calm my own anxiety. But say this time next year, what do you think your goal is? So we're going to go through an exercise of setting goals, but we're also going to go through an exercise of setting short-term goals and long-term goals, but also applying actions against them. So let's get started with short-term goals. In the next few months, or by the end of this month, or by the end of summer, or by the end of this year, right? Let's list 3 short-term goals. And how do you plan on meeting these goals? What are you doing now that is an action step to be able to meet this goal, and what can you do to further accomplish? But before we jump into that, let's think about 3 simple goals. And it can be monetary. It can be, I want to make, I don't know, I want to double my income, something crazy like that, or triple my income or something. You want to work with a dream client, or you'd like to get more organized. Let's create 3 short-term goals that are very fitting with your kind of your professional goals in the short term. So what makes a difference between a short-term goal and long-term goal is definitely think about the window of time, what's actually feasible and realistic. If you have kids, if you have a full-time job that you're working on the side, you know, take those into consideration when you're drafting these goals. How do you plan on meeting these goals? So if you want to get more client work, maybe that means it's actually putting an action against it, meaning clean up your portfolio or send out 5 emails a day. And a lot of it is I think where this exercise also comes from is like when it's New Year's and people are like, I want to read a book every month. It's like, cool, you've got a great goal, but what are the actions against it? Like putting an action against that goal means I'm going to read 2 pages a day at 2 p.m. every day or something like that. So start big. Let's start with 3 simple goals. And then the exercise would be to put actions against those goals. So look, something like that. You can list the goals and then put your little actions against it. Definitely, when you're thinking about actions, think about how you plan on meeting these goals. What's an action step that you can do right now, whether it's clean up my website, drafting an email, or something like that. Actually, Todoist, speaking of which, also has a really great article about creating subtasks against setting goals or things to do, to-do lists. Here, let me see if I can find it. Subtasks. All right. This is like a very how-to for someone who uses the apps, but did I write multiple twos? No, I didn't. Oh, there might be a typo in the whatever, the sheet. Oops, dogs. Okay, so that's, hopefully you guys have had a chance to be able to write through your short-term goals and put some actions behind them, next to them, so that you can see some ways that we can break apart the goals that you have so that they're actionable. The whole point of this exercise is so you have actions to support you on the goals that you'd like to meet. In the same frame, we want to be able to put long-term goals. So imagine this time next year, or 3 years from now, 5 years from now, like what are 3 long-term goals you want? And maybe it means dream clients. Maybe it means feeling financially stable or something like that. You know, a lot of times when you're putting these goals, sometimes they can feel broad, but it's also asking yourself, that's the importance of putting actions against them. Like, okay, if you want to be financially stable, that means you need to make more money. How can you make more money? Is it working on your finances and adjusting your rates, or is it working on getting more clients? And you have to just kind of keep asking yourself, okay, if I want to get more clients, what are things I need to do to be able to get more clients? And it's this exercise that you kind of ask yourself to kind of continue to pick apart the things you need to do in order to get to where you want to be. So it might feel a little bit overwhelming, but again, kind of going through how you want to meet these goals and how do we want to align these goals with our short-term goals, because everything will kind of match together and piece together very beautifully. Okay. So I'll kind of give you guys a couple more minutes to wrap that up. Okay. So hopefully everyone has at least a couple ideas jotted down. Hopefully it looks something like this. So once we've kind of set some goals, we've set some actions, stay with me here. We're going to weave it together into an actual timeline for you to be able to set real milestones for yourselves. So we want to put together some key milestones for you to be able to align on these short-term and long-term goals. For me, I like to create quarterly focuses on projects, themes, goals to keep myself accountable. We talked about fiscal year quarters, so we'll jump into that a little bit. But because life is a whirlwind, so is work and things happen. These are kind of just general brackets for you to go through your work day, your work weeks, your work months, so that at least you're slowly taking steps to work towards these milestones, even though sometimes we might be knocked off our path and we need to get back on it. But it's really great to be able to do a quarterly check-in with yourself and maybe do a mini version and reflect on some of the goals that you've written down. So some of you might be already familiar with this, but quarters that make up a fiscal year for a business. Q1 is January to March, Q2 is April to June, and so forth. So it's a great way to, from a planning perspective, it's a really great way to be able to break up a year into 4 different quarters. So remember earlier when I was talking about finding client work and sending cold emails to clients, it's also really helpful to time your emails to quarters as well, because there's budgets approvals each year, and then there's budgets allocated for each quarter of the year, meaning if they've already met their budgets, they probably have to figure some stuff out. So you want to kind of schedule and design your cold emails, your outreach, your kind of like external communications with future clients and stuff like that in between these windows, ideally. And so building on top of the goals and actions we've put together, we can essentially build it out into an entire year. So you can do, let's just say you want to just do fully 2022, or you can build it between now and 2022. But breaking it down, let's look at Q1. You have your first goal, you break it down into actions, and then you plan for your next goal. Meaning, if right now we're in June, don't worry about anything. Don't worry about the future. Just focus on whatever you're supposed to accomplish in June. And you are giving yourself a very reasonable 3-month window to be able to focus on this specific goal, and then towards the end, be able to plan for your following goal. So the reason why I do this exercise is if you're someone who aspires for a lot, you would like to accomplish a lot of things, but sometimes it's hard to be able to reasonably find time to be able to get these ideas and thoughts organized. Or we're always feeling like you feel bad about being able to meet these endless list of things you'd like to do and accomplish. Now you have it in a 1 full year. No excuses, you can go for it, right? Especially, and that's why the action part is super important, because it's important to list out the actions that you can take in order to meet these goals. So hopefully this creates a bit of clarity. If you guys want to do that exercise a little bit more when you have more time, feel free to do so and plug it into this kind of year format. And I'm going to throw one more thing at you. Hopefully this isn't confusing, but you can take this exact approach and apply your long-term goals to this kind of plan. Obviously 2020 is already over, but there's 2021, 2022, 2023, and so forth. So for the gentleman that I spoke with earlier who said he wanted to be financially independent 4 years from now, what does your roadmap for that look like in this kind of format? So it's a lot, it's intense, but it's really great for people to do this exercise, especially small business owners and all of you here that are designers. You guys, if you guys make your own money, you guys are a small business owner in many ways. So it's just something to consider. And mid-year is always a good time to do a check-in. So right now, say you guys do decide to commit yourselves to do this exercise, you can always kind of schedule it for yourself end of year around December to prepare yourself for the following year. This has always been helpful for me to be able to gain some footing, because sometimes as a small business, we never take time to reflect. As a designer, as a creator, we're always busy looking at what other people are doing. We're always busy fulfilling client work. Never do we actually have a chance to sit and reflect. What works for us? What do we want to do? And how do we plan on getting there? So we'll also have another Q&A segment at the end, but hopefully this wasn't too confusing for everyone. The next portion of this is also defining your skills and capabilities. So at the end of the day, your skills and capabilities are your products and services as a business. So As a designer, we had done the exercise earlier of defining what services you offer. So let's talk about your skills and capabilities, and let's ask ourselves, who would actually pay for these services that you're offering? So as an illustrator, who would actually pay for them? Who could your clients basically be? It could be, sorry, my gardener's here. So hopefully you guys don't hear the buzzing in the background. But you can, let me open the file on my end. But we want to go through kind of this exercise of listing out who could your potential clientele be, who would essentially need the services that you offer. So if you're a UI UX, obviously anyone who has a business, but how can we break that down a little bit more? UI UX in government, UI UX in hospitality, UI UX in tech, UI UX in, there's so many ways to, or if you're a photographer, who need these services. So the reason why we're doing this exercise is also to be strategic. We'll also be building a plan to be able to pursue and find clients for you based off of the work we're doing right now. So I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes. So if you have the worksheet open, you'll see that there are a number of questions in there. What are you good at? What are your skills? So it could even be communication as well. Actually, going to share another resource with you guys. There's a great test that I loved taking. It helped me feel very confident and comfortable with who I am and the skills that I have. It's called the Gallup's test. You do have to pay $20 for it. But I took it maybe like 6 years ago, and it's made me feel so confident and comfortable, and given me clarity on what my skills as a character is. It's different from like personality tests and stuff like that, because that may change over time, but this is like actual skills that you are born with. And a lot of corporate companies offer this for their employees because someone might have a beautiful set of skills that doesn't work well in their specific position. So something to kind of get on your radar. Let's see. So also talking about skills, say there's certain skills that you want to improve on, you can also think about what are ways that you can actually propel and grow these skills. It's like, a garden that you want to tend towards, to water it, to fertilize it, to give it more love, to be able to, and again, that can also fit into your short-term goals. Maybe one of your action items can be related to furthering your education and curriculum. So once we've listed out your skills and capabilities, you can do a really fun flow chart like this. I actually do this in my my deck that I send out to people. So for me, name of my business is me, but I can break down like illustration as service 1, and it'll say pamphlets, posters, I don't know, campaigns, activations. Service 2 can be public speaking, workshops, whatever. So, oh wait, I have an example to show you guys. So I'll show you my example really quickly. So some of us may wear many hats, some of us may wear 1 or 2, and there's nothing wrong with just wearing 1 or 2, but it's sometimes as visual people, it's helpful to be able to see things visually. So you can definitely make your list and hopefully be able to compile something similar to this flow chart that helps you be able to visually see what you offer. And it's a great way of being able to share the information and being able to, because everything makes sense in our brain, but sometimes it doesn't always make sense to our future potential clients, especially those of us that wear many hats. So for example, I had a friend who is this amazing art director, stylist, influencer, whatever. She does all this stuff, but she has her own personal Instagram that shows all this cool stuff she does, but then she has this agency name for her portfolio. But in terms of branding, it's a little bit confusing. So I was just trying to, explain to her that a lot of times you could, if you're seeing a lull in incoming work, sometimes if you've seen good days and you've seen bad days, or good seasons and bad seasons, sometimes it's also all about how are you presenting yourself and communicating your services, your skills and capabilities to your future clients. So this exercise is really about getting clear about yourself. So using this to potentially organize your website navigation to break down your services, break down your deck, right? We talked about building a potential deck, mini deck, or one sheet that's an extension of your website, but also a great visual way for you to prep yourself on how to explain who you are and what you do and what you offer for future clients. So hopefully this exercise was helpful. Give you guys a couple minutes to kind of wrap things up before we jump towards client strategy on how we want to identify our potential clients and ways to be able to motivate them and identify what motivates them. So what else was I going to say about this part? But yeah, the point of this exercise is just to get clear about who you are, because again, it makes sense to you, but sometimes it doesn't make sense to others. And also the flowchart idea is something I've used in the past, just having dealt with like imposter syndrome, or just being able to clearly present, what it is I do to people without, a bunch of visuals and showing them all these pretty pictures. It's a really clear example to be able to display your work capabilities. Okay, so jumping into client strategy. This is also an extremely fun exercise because we are going to go through who your clientele is, identifying who your clientele is, and building an actual strategy. So we've already talked about what you offer. Now is for us to talk about who's your clientele and how do you keep them coming back. So who's your clientele? We can always reference that Excel spreadsheet of work or Airtable that you've been working on over the course of the past few hours. Who can be a part of your clientele is a really important kind of factor to think about. Client motivation. What are your strengths as a business, right? We've kind of talked through that. What makes your clients coming back? So what I mean by this question is a lot of times for friends that I've worked with in the past, on kind of this brand strategy work, they'll say, I'm easy to work with. You make sure that you're easy to work with. You have endless revisions or something like that. Like, what's a special perk that sets you apart from your competitors and kind of differentiates you? And a lot of that also justifies your rates, right? So for example, if you're someone who's a creator and artist, but you have a huge social following, a lot of times you can up your rate compared to your competitors because you offer that. So just a couple thoughts to think about to get some gears going. Definitely an exercise of self-reflection. Why do you think your clients hire you? What do you think makes you special? What makes your work special? And it's also working with you as a person. And I oftentimes like to do this yearly as well, just to be able to circle back with myself. What's been working this year? A great place to start is also looking at top clients and cold clients. So top clients, meaning if you're a full functioning business and you've had clients over the years, one, make a list of top recurring clients that you've had and how much you've earned. So top reoccurring clients could be a retainer, could be clients that regularly come back to you and how much they usually pay you. And you can kind of list it in a ascending or descending order. And the second exercise for top clients is making a list of top clients you've earned the most money from as well, so that you can kind of see who loves me the most and who gives me a lot of money, because obviously that's really important, so that you can develop an actual strategy to be able to go back to them and continue continue the relationship and be a little bit intentional with your cold emails or follow-up emails, right? Everything's tying together from what we did earlier. And then cold clients, say you're just starting out, you don't have a super strong clientele database just yet. You can refer back to your spreadsheet and look at who can potentially be a client for you. Potentially strategically approach a small list of 3 people from that group, from that spreadsheet, and approach them and be like, and offer free services maybe. It's be like, hey, do you need a new business card? I'd love to build a business card for you, and throw that into your portfolio. And you can say that person could be your client. And you can also look at the list spreadsheet that you made earlier and make a list of top potential reoccurring clients. Sorry, I should have switched that in the deck, but make a list of top potential reoccurring clients of clients that you could build a strong relationship with, because and it could be friends, it could be their retailer down the street, the small business down the street. It's always helpful to work with local small businesses as well, as a fun little way to be able to build your portfolio. Or, I'm sure you've seen this, a lot of illustrators, painters, muralists will do local businesses in their area to be able to liven up the streets and get their work out there. So we've already talked about this already, but with professionalism, you definitely want to always to check in with yourself. Are you ready as a business to pursue these opportunities, right? Because you could have done the work to have beautiful branding, have cold emails, and you're timing it right. You could have, a good list of clientele that you're pursuing with like strategy that you're confident with. But if your presentation and professionalism on your website and on, in the public space in terms of what people can Google about you or search about you isn't up to par, then of course that's going to impact the general success of your strategy. So we're going to recap this really quickly. Hopefully it wasn't too much of a snooze fest, but an opportunity for you guys to do some self-reflection. Now that we've done all the work, let's definitely go through and see how everything has paid off. So we did your brand identity. We've been able to identify your role in the marketplace and your responsibility and your relationships. Probably should put periods in this, but you get the point. And then we've also put together goals and milestones. Hopefully that was a really key part of this exercise for you, to be able to see clarity for your next moves and actions that you have to take, keeping you focused on your North Star, your goal per season, per quarter, and be able to build in the confidence from your brand identity statement on what you want to do. And with the same thing, with the brand identity statement, you now know who you are, what you do, what you can offer people. You can develop a general strategy on how you want to approach clients and when. Oops. And then with skills and capabilities, you have a list of services to empower and support your next project negotiations. So also with skills and capabilities, you can update your website. Also with skills and capabilities, it's easier for you to share your work in your cold emails. So they all kind of tie together. And hopefully that was hopefully your worksheet is filled up to some extent. Feel free to go back and revisit it. And yeah, we can jump straight into Q&A if anyone has any questions now. Okay, how do you start a portfolio if you don't have a lot of professional work? Well, I mentioned earlier, you can also always start with local businesses around you as well. If you're a graphic designer or if you're an artist, muralist, again, start with your local businesses. Maybe you have an aunt that's a florist, or your family member has a business. Family, friends, neighborhood. I feel like that's the best way to start as a creative prompt. You have a skill. Maybe I didn't mention this, but in the beginning of my career, I did so much free work as well. And also I did a lot of work through my internships that allowed me to be able to, at least have a portfolio to be able to share and have like more of a solid footing to stand on. So next week workshop is going to be similar to the Skillshare class, but it's going to be more workshop based, a bit more coaching and a lot of opportunity for people to be able to talk and share a bit about their own work and what they've kind of experienced in their time. How can you build a clientele as a freelancer? Well, we all have to start somewhere. So I literally made a like gradient in Photoshop and got paid $100. Like that was probably the first check I ever got. It looked like a Windows XP wallpaper, but someone always needs something designed. And, you know, I used to even design like party flyers in New York because someone, like if you have a friend that's a DJ, ask if you can design their next flyer. If you've got a friend that's a photographer, ask if, you know, you can help them design their portfolio because you're a print designer and you want to design a little mini book for them. There's so many ways to be able to come up with cool projects. Maybe next time you are scrolling online and you see a cool project, maybe there's a way for you to do something similar for a friend or with friends in your community. What do you recommend as good educational resources or topics to focus on when you've started your career and want to improve? What do you recommend as good education? Okay, so good educational resources or topics to focus on. So great exercise is make a list of things you want to improve on. So what are some topics you want to improve on, and then work backwards and search for resources there. I literally, all I do is Google all day. So if you want to learn about how to be less stressed, Google how to be less stressed and start clicking all the links. And then the link will lead you to another link and another link and another link. Or, you know, how can you, you know, be a better designer? So a lot of times, nice and old school, you can always go to the library down the street. You can always go to your local bookstore as well and go to the design section, look at the creative section, spend some time to look through the books as well. You appear online under your name, but also your nickname for social handles. And how do you approach that and find balance? Okay, so I mean, technically, it is a terrible idea to do that, but my actual name is Sophia Chang, and where SMI, my Instagram handle, came from, I'll show you here, is that I am, it's MAI is I am backwards, and SC are my initials. So when I was in high school, we were obviously creating like little graffiti stickers, and that was like the nickname I went by. And I also, obviously everyone used Instant Messenger, and that was my screen name. And so when I was in college and we needed to make a website and buy a domain, Sophia Chang was taken. So I just made it based on my old screen name. And when I had to start an Instagram, I just went by that. But of course, based on branding preferences, it's an SEO. It's not great. There's actually quite a few other Sophia Changs out there in the public space. One is a fashion blogger, and another one is like an author and former manager of a lot of musicians. So if you have a unique name, it's always great to be able to go by that and brand your work that way. But for me, it just had a very personal kind of personal story behind it. And even though I would want to change it now, the handle and the domain's already taken by other parties. So fortunately I can't, and I'm just trying to make it work. Do you have any tips or upcoming interviews in preparation for an interview in general? So, I mean, I'm assuming interviews, a work interview. So work interviews are always very scary. I think you just have to always be well prepared for sure, but also part of it is also picturing your worst case scenario as well. I mean, I like to be a believer that when one door closes, another opens as well. So don't be too bummed out. I mean, there's been multiple times in my life where I've also gone on interviews and gotten turned down, and just have to deal with it. But it's always an opportunity to learn as well. Every opportunity is a reason to teach or a reason to learn. So in preparation for interviews, obviously, honestly, I've gone on interviews before and I just Googled stuff like how to prepare for an interview and it's just gone through that, whatever's on Google. So I can give you some tips, but for the most part, I think it's also easiest if you're in the moment and you're looking through it yourself. How many projects are you usually working on at once? Well, I oftentimes like to use Notion to be able to keep track of projects that are coming in, projects that I'm working on right now, and projects that fell through. So I kind of break everything down by columns so that when work is slow, I can follow up with projects that fell through. But typically, I'm always working on multiple projects at once. Because I have common aims, there's a lot of different needs with the tech startup, but with the illustration design work I do, I'm usually working on like maybe 4 to 5 different projects. But there's times when I'm so overwhelmed and tired and exhausted and feeling really overwhelmed, like I'm doing way too much. There's also that. And then there's times where I'm feeling great. So it's all about kind of like, I guess, playing with your threshold to see what works and what doesn't. And I know I shared the article of time blocking, so definitely check that out to be able to help you stay grounded when you have a lot of work. So tips on getting legal contracts in place when you're starting out as a freelancer. A good point of reference is to always ask other freelancers that may do work similar to you that already have contracts. You can always ask them for it. You might have a friend that's a lawyer. I did this with my lawyers. I've been working with them for 10 years, but in the beginning of my career, I couldn't afford them. So I actually did a barter with them where I designed their website, their stationery, and their business card in exchange for a couple hours of legal services. So you can ask your friends, you can do a barter with a lawyer. You can also find a lot of free resources online. I highly recommend that. It's free, it's great, but you just want to make sure you always look through all the contracts to make sure you adjust it to cater to you and your actual specific needs. So a niche designer is always great. Having a personal style and identity is always great. It makes you valuable in the space, but more than anything, it's more than just great art and design. I went to school with a lot of amazing artists that I was just like mind-blowing, but they had no hustle. They had a beautiful portfolio, but no sense of business. They didn't work with strategy in place. So I think it's a lot more than just being a great designer. It's also being a great business person. And a niche designer is never bad. I mean, there's always so many subculture, sub-communities. A great rule of thumb and piece of advice that one of my, actually my teachers in high school shared with us once was, whatever it is you end up being, treat it like you want to be the best at it. So if you're a janitor, treat it like you want to be the best janitor in the world. If you're a nurse, treat it like you want to be the best nurse possible out there. So I would say, whatever niche it is you're in, treat it like you work towards being the best. At what point is perfection self-sabotage and stop us from growing and showing our work? I mean, many designers a lot of times are overly perfectionists. I mean, in many ways I can be, but in many ways I also just don't care. Like a lot of times I'm just like, you know what, it's fine. Like you really have to develop the muscle of, is this worth my time? Like, is this actually going to make a difference? Because if it's really not going to make that big of a difference, just move on. And that only comes with practice and being able to train yourself to not only, very similarly to pushing past procrastination moments, it's also pushing past those friction moments of your own perfectionism. So yes, I absolutely believe it's self-sabotage, because I know so many designers that could be doing so much more in their careers and lives, but they get caught up in their own brains. So it can absolutely stop you from growing and showing your work. So definitely want to get into a healthy habit of asking yourself, reflecting, and making those key decisions. Thoughts on whether you should focus on your strengths or work on your weaknesses. So why not do both? Why do you have to choose? So my opinion is be aware of your strengths, but also continue to always work on your weaknesses in life. I think that's always helpful, because your strengths are your strengths. Lean on them, but at the same time, a smart person will always lean on their strengths to kind of weave them through life, but also always continue to work on their weaknesses. How do you navigate building your design career if you're struggling financially? Get a side job, get a part-time job, see like anything. Go wash dishes, go see if you can sweep the floor somewhere, go get a retail job. Like there's opportunity, there's, I mean, it's not easy, but the effort is easy. And I think that's the most important part. And it may take weeks and may take months. It is a competitive space, but if you want to work on a design career, you can always focus on, put your time and energy into financials in a different department as well. Any advice for someone who's looking to transition out of a tech career into design? Well, what I always say for people who are transitioning between careers is you never want to think that your previous career was a waste and the time spent on that was a waste. I think that your previous career wires your brain in a certain way that can only support and differentiate you from the way you work in your next career. Meaning if you're a nurse, you might be more nurturing, compassionate, thoughtful in the way you pursue design. If you're a tech person, you might be very structured, a little bit more detail oriented, a little bit more automated in terms of how you work into design. So never think of that as a hindrance in any ways, but very similar to the beginning of this course, a lot of it is putting your best foot out there. But before you do that, making sure that your presentation and professionalism is healthy and in place, and also always investing in your skills to be able to fine tune, evolve, and grow as a creator. How do you take a great opportunity, run with it, and keep the momentum going so there's more opportunities to come? You said it, you answered your own question. All you have to do is take a great opportunity, run with it, keep the momentum going so that there's more opportunities to come. You just got to rephrase your question and you've got your answer. Just wondering how you practice your craft regularly, like how to exercise your creative muscles. I mean, it's not, sometimes it doesn't come naturally. A lot of times it's just something you have to make time for as well, right? It's muscles, it's muscle memory. I thankfully have been able to practice my craft regularly because the work has been coming in steadily, but earlier in my career, it was also me putting myself in a position in which I could practice my craft regularly, meaning offering my services to friends, doing internships, offering free work, being involved in different communities, and taking my craft and applying it in areas that I care for and love, like creating Undo Ordinary, my health and wellness platform, also Common Ace. So I think the opportunities are endless. We a lot of times just have to look beyond and look at our surroundings. Do you recommend taking in clients from family contacts? If the rates are not agreed upon, would that be a conflict? I mean, family contacts, family is always a sticky subject for people. If you think you can trust this person, that would be great. But take everything as a learning opportunity, because you might have a family contact that you work on a project with, and it is the most uncomfortable, annoying person ever. And you have to remember, a lot of times as a creator and a designer, people don't know how to work with designers. If they knew how to do it, they wouldn't be hiring you. So a lot of times you also have to be a coach to coach your client through what it's like to work with you. So it's always helpful to have some boundaries and expectations in place. Legal contracts can be helpful. Designing a scope of work can be really helpful, so that it's an agreed upon agreement of what you offer and what they can expect. So that's always a great way to be able to lock in a rate. Of course, I'm sure you've heard of the term friends and family rate. If you're working with family, maybe you want to offer them a different rate. Or a lot of times if you do free work, or if you do like work that you're not getting like full compensation for or partial compensation, sometimes it's good to be able to add it to your portfolio and be able to see how that might propel for like more work opportunities for you. When you're starting out as a creative, how picky can you be with clients? Dream versus not so dream clients. Well, I think when you're first starting out, probably don't be too picky, right? Remember the phrase, leave your ego at the door. Take what you can, because every opportunity to work with a client is an opportunity to work on your communication skills, your professional skills, your ability to deliver, and a prompt for you to create something. And then when it comes to your dream clients, it's an exciting time for you to take a stepping stone towards your goals. But, obviously, all of those examples are great opportunities for you to fine tune your portfolio, which is always key. What has been one of your most difficult experiences with a client, and what were your main takeaways? Oh my gosh, I always have terrible experiences all the time. I mean, everyone does. And I was actually just talking to a friend the other day about I always have crappy experiences. I mean, we all do. Everyone has crappy stories. And like 10, 15 years in, I'm still trying to learn and trying to protect myself in the situation. So like I had a client that definitely was also asking for a lot of changes, and I didn't expect something to be this intense, or we weren't clear about it, or I should have been clear. So what my main takeaways were ways to better protect myself. So I realized I need to be clear with the questions that I ask, or I need to be clear with what their expectations should be, because maybe the person that was hiring me obviously didn't know. So my takeaway was, how can I avoid this from happening again? And what steps can I take for myself to put in place in order to grow from this situation? So always important to kind of take a beat. I got a few seniors in future college that I really look up to. How do I contact them for learning opportunities? I don't know. It's really easy to stalk people on the internet these days. So maybe Instagram, you can DM them, or DM and message these people. I think that's always a good place to start. But you can mention, hey, I look up to you, but where does it go? Where does the conversation go from there? So you might look up to them. So do you want to work with them? Do you want to shadow them? If so, for how long? Be clear on what your ask for someone's time is and what the expectations are. Should I pay for ads to push my brand, or put money into something else? I typically think that ads can be really tricky. I would rather you take that money to, hire someone to help you do research for, help create a Rolodex of people you want to work with, So maybe you can create that Rolodex of all the dream clients, and you pay someone $50 and be like, can you help me Google research and help me find these people's contacts? I think there's other areas that you can spend your money instead of doing ads as a small business owner. I think we already touched on this question last time. Any resources on creating case studies? I mean, a great example of a case study is pretty straightforward. So a title, an image that best represents the work that you did, and 2 to 3 sentences to explain what it is that you worked on. So case studies can come to life on your website, or they can also come to life in a little mini deck. I do not have Instagram or Facebook, and I think it's too late to build one from zero. Some advice? You don't have to have an Instagram or Facebook. Have a www.something.com for you, aka your website. You don't necessarily need social media. But because social media is so commonly used, that's why I brought it up today. What is your favorite way to start a project? How do you start your mood boards? Do you use a specific app like InDesign? What is your favorite way to start a project? I mean, sometimes I use mood boards. Over the years, I've learned how to communicate with clients better and better, and not to take things personally. But over the years, some clients would respond better with mood boards. If I have a hard time visually explaining something and want to make sure I'm putting some groundwork in place to set boundaries for expectations. Sometimes ideas just come to mind after a prompt. A favorite way to start a project definitely is research, mood boarding. Sometimes if I have a hard time getting artist block, definitely scrolling on Pinterest, or my Instagram bookmark sometimes sparks different types of creative inspiration. I don't necessarily use InDesign. There is a great mood boarding app that I use called Nice. If you guys want to check that out. And of course, I'm sure you guys know Design Inspiration, designinspiration.net maybe. Let's see. Yeah. Oh. Did we want to bring anyone up, or are we good to go? Oh, I think you're muted.
Sorry, I was just saying nobody is keen to come up. So maybe you could take one more question and then we could wrap it up.
Cool, sounds good. Okay, who's going to be our last question here? How did you get into designing websites? Do you work with the developer, or do you develop on a platform like Squarespace? So I was very lucky to be able to get into websites through an internship I had. So the guy I worked with who designed clothes, he had a studio mate who was a web designer. So a lot of times they might have a deadline that they're trying to meet and they needed someone to crank on a bit of work for them. So they'd give me like $50, $100 just to like do a lot of their busy work. And through kind of that relationship, I was able to actually ultimately be able to work full time with the web designer and tackle a lot of projects within the e-com space. So I was fully just working on more of the UI side of things, front end. But that's how I learned how to design websites, was actually through someone else and not through any formal design, but definitely spent a lot of time myself doing the research to, you know, figure out what I liked, what I didn't like, and helping to define like a very keen eye to be able to best cater to clients' needs and stuff like that. But that kind of wraps it up for us. If you guys would like, you can always stay in touch with me on Instagram mainly. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. Thank you, Dribble team, for hosting, and welcome for, you know, hosting us as well from the tech side. What is it, Madeline? Oh.
Sorry, I was just going to do an outro when you're done.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but anyways, just wanted to thank everyone for tuning in. Obviously, we have another workshop coming on next Thursday, same time. Hope to be able to see you guys here. If you can't make it, make sure you share it with somebody else. But we'll be diving through social media, building your online presence, and actually working together to be able to develop an actual manageable schedule similar to what we did today for you to be able to better understand what stories you want to be able to tell on your social media to be able to attract customers, clients, and hopefully new friends. So thank you guys for joining today.
Thank you so much, Sophia. I just want to echo that and just say a massive thank you for everyone who came, and also a massive thank you for Sophia for this amazing workshop. I hope you have a head full of inspiration and have got a lot of new knowledge to take in your future careers. So if you want to come to the workshop next week, use the code Sophia50, and we really hope to see you there. Thank you so much.